Hello, I want to talk about what it feels like to be stuck in a chronic, severe OCD cycle, specifically how that felt inside my head, how it felt inside of my body, how it felt from a physical pain perspective and a withdrawal perspective, because when you're withdrawing, it's extremely brutal. People think that withdrawing from compulsions is going to be a breeze, or even it's like anything in life. You can't know until you experience it. You can read a million books on the death of a family member. Until you lose a family member, you can't really experience it. And this is something that I think I got wrong, and I think a lot of people misinterpret, especially on social media. And it's understandable to misinterpret this, because that's how hard the struggle is from withdrawing from compulsions. Before I go any further, look for that link down below. Look for the What's Up message. Phil will get you guys in immediately. We have a lot of people coming in recently. It's been great. Speaking to people is all over the world. It's one of the number one things I'm grateful for what we do. And it's awesome. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Would not trade my experience. Okay, so the most important thing to remember is that unless you have chronic OCD, where it affects you every moment of the day, nobody is really going to understand what you're going through. Now, not only that, we don't need people to understand us. We know that, because even if you were the only person on earth with this particular fear pattern, you could still accept that, because it's called unconditional acceptance. So there's no condition to where it doesn't actually work. It's completely unconditional. And this is the thing that really got me stuck for a long time. And I was just on a call earlier today, and I was thinking about this. And I said, one of the number one things that I didn't realize was you spend so much time trying to prove why you're different, and then that's not going to work for anyone. And everyone's always afraid of rejection. It's why when I make these videos walking around neighborhoods and people are outside and stuff like that, and the amount of people that wouldn't even do this because they're afraid of what people are going to say about them because they're walking with a selfie stick, that's just one example of a million examples how people feel inside their head wrapped up, and then they don't do anything and they make no actionable progress. So people are, and a little off topic, but this is exactly how it feels. You're so afraid of rejection that even saying something in your mind, if you said something, what did I mean by that? What does that say about that? Oh my God. And you start ruminating, and that automatic rumination process comes in. Well, number one, you can't stop that. We all know that. You can't stop that automatic internal clock that's just ripping around in pieces. You have to become comfortable with that firing at all times. Okay? And that automatic rumination is going to be present for, could be a couple of years, could be, waxing and waning for 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how much work you're actually putting in. So expecting that to be there for the long run, and realizing your goal isn't to actually bring down the rumination per se, not the outward analyzing. Your goal is to become comfortable with rumination. That's a really, really big mistake that I made. That's a big mistake that I see most people on social media make. Now, people that want to help you understand how OCD works, who have never had chronic OCD, these aren't people, the majority of them, can't say for certain, that don't have malicious intentions. By any means, they want to help, they went to school, they got a degree, they're a coach, whether they have accolades or not, and they want to help you. But the reality is, we know that OCD is really, really, really difficult to understand when you've never experienced the chronic latching mechanism of how it feels in the mind, how the anxiety is pumping away every second, 24 hours a day, how lonely you feel as you start to get better and you see the world in a completely different way. And you realize, as Rob and I always say, people think the rat race is, usually hear it in the financial term, where people are saying you're chasing the rat race of money. Chasing the rat race of money is a minuscule piece of what the rat race is in the psychological perspective. You're chasing every type of connection, whether it's a sexual connection, whether it's a feeling connection, whether it's a financial connection, whether it's a comfort connection like a home or a car. So you're constantly looking to feel at peace. But peace only comes from an OCD perspective and a life perspective when the individual has fully accepted in all degrees that they don't need anyone to accept them. They prefer it, but they don't need it. That they could be homeless, that they could have no money, that they could be completely overweight and obese. And again, acceptance doesn't mean agreement. So you're not looking for these things. And like I said, the reason why, this walking with the selfie stick looks hilarious to most people. Probably many people walking around judging me from the balconies and all that stuff. That's okay. Doesn't have any effect on me. Would I prefer it if people didn't judge me? Sure. The reason why I'm not stuck in the OCD loop and like as Rob says, the internal cogwheels are turning and turning and turning, is because I've accepted that being judged is a part of life. Being made fun of is a part of life. Having people diss your work is a part of life. You're not going to get very far in your OCD recovery if you're not willing to experience large amounts of discomfort for long periods of time. So let's go over a couple examples of how I felt in certain situations. The one that really got me the most was when I was, I would say the mental hospital area of my life. So a 6-month time period where I was locked in the OCD cycle when I was in the mental hospital. This is when my sensory motor was really bad. This is what it feels like to have sensory motor OCD. You, with saliva swallowing, you have a garden hose that's underneath your tongue. They have strapped you to a chair, like the waterboarding techniques. They strapped you to a chair and they've let the hose loose in your mouth and you can't escape. And you're duct taped to the chair. That is what sensory motor feels like from a saliva swallowing perspective. What does breathing sensory motor feel like? When I hike these mountains with 57% oxygen, like sea level at 14,000 feet, or even when you're in good shape, you feel it. I mean, when you see the best hikers up there, people I've talked to who have done all the Colorado 14ers and they've done all the really hard 13ers and they're traveling around, they're going to the Himalayas. You feel like that all the time. But some people also have a fear of death. So you are literally on the edge of a cliff. It's like you're standing on this edge right here and you're about to fall off and die at any second. That's what it feels like in your mind. And there's a point in your recovery where where you're suffering, you are completely and utterly convinced that you will never be able to get better, that it's not a possibility for you whatsoever. And that is something that holds all of us back. Every single person thinks they're the worst. Every single person who's addicted to hard drugs thinks they're the worst case. Every single person who struggles with alcoholism thinks they're the worst. Everyone who loses a child to cancer thinks their situation is the worst. Everyone who loses a parent thinks their situation is the worst. People are going to misconstrue suffering in their mind to fit their own narrative for the remainder of human existence. It's never going to change. But you have the ability to change your perspective on your suffering. And that is legitimately the only thing you have control over. The only thing, and your belief systems. And even at that, you don't really have as good as a control as you think. Because the way the brain operates, once the brain understands what you're scared of, which it actually does very well. OCD, we're like steroid users of fear patterns. Once it understands what you're afraid of, it will latch onto that and grip its teeth in, and it will not let go and it will not budge until you become more accepting of your worst case scenario. It just won't do it. And it's going to just turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it. And that's what it feels like. Another good example I use is what it feels like is the park bench example. You're on a park bench, you're sitting there, you're looking at a lovely river, and you just hear someone come behind you and they go with a shotgun and they put it to the back of your head and they go, I'm going to blow your brains out. Don't turn around. What you would feel like in that moment is what it feels like all day, every day. Some people have it last 24/7. Some people waxes and wanes. Some people only stressful situations. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that matters is there's a fear present. There's belief systems present. There's worst case scenarios that have to be brought down. And on top of that, there's behaviors that have to change. That's what matters the most by a long shot. And until we become comfortable at our worst case scenario, it will. And just to give you an example too, how this also works in the mind is that the worst case scenario will have to have a pretty good level of acceptance. You can't just look at your worst case scenario and go, yeah, you know what? I'm not really afraid of going to jail. You are, and that's okay. Most people are. Going to jail isn't fun, but you can always learn something in any situation. You can learn stuff when you're homeless. You can learn stuff in many, many, many situations. But it's going to take time to really, really understand that your brain is going to feel, as we say, cortisol soup. Your brain is going to automatically ruminate. Your brain is going to come with extreme realness sensations day in, day out, 24/7 for a very long time. And I wish there was an easier way for me to tell you that, but there's not. There's not. Another example to relate to, because obviously I have a lot of, not personal, but I mean myself, but lots of people I know and people I work with. You know, you look at Jordan Peterson's a great example, right? Jordan Peterson never used drugs in his life. He was taking benzodiazepines because his wife Tammy had cancer and she went into remission. And it took him 2 years to feel better after his last benzodiazepine dosage. 2 years. 2 years. 2 years. The guy never used drugs in his life. So that goes to show you this is not something that, you know, it comes very easily to most people. It's very, very difficult to get better from OCD. It's not rocket science. Remember, the one I like is it's simple. It's not easy. It's not rocket science, but it takes more than you think. You know, just come in for the long game. And that way you can at least, when you're in the locked in mechanism, when you're sitting at work, when you're ruminating, when your coworker is talking to you and you're like, what the fuck did you say to me? When your wife or your spouse or whoever you're dating is talking to you and it's like their words are going straight through you. You have no idea what they're saying. It's so much easier to become comfortable with that in the long term if you break down that you don't need that to go away. Most people completely miss out on the fact, oh, hey guys, don't miss out on the fact that the more you want your OCD suffering gone, the more you want any physical symptoms gone, headache, gas, bloating, shitting your pants, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, anger, shame, guilt, any of that gone. The more you want any of that gone, the worse off you'll be. Then that's like the real deal. I actually was just thinking, I can't wait to do these videos walking around in the snow. I'm very, very, very excited for that. Extremely, actually. I'm pumped. I will sidetrack right there because it's actually really nice out. But we're getting supposedly our first snowstorm next week. Hyped about that. Hiking in the snow, great frustration tolerance, especially when you have no service. But yeah, that's what you got to remember. And it's going to feel like that. You're going to forget things. You're going to feel like you're going crazy, and not in a psychosis or fear schizophrenia way. You're going to feel like you're truly losing it. Like no one gets it. Like you come into the WhatsApp groups. Let me tell you how every single person's mind works after the first 10 days of being with OCD recovery. They come in for their first coaching call. Maybe they buy a 5-pack. They come in for the first call. We talk about a bunch of stuff. We put them in the WhatsApp groups. They're in there with a bunch of people. They start asking questions, usually compulsively. So we have to kind of adjust to that. It's part of the process. We all do it. It's like something I had to tell myself a lot. The first call, there's always going to be, but one more question, one more, blah, 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 blah. I mean, people do that for many sessions because they have a hard time wearing the urge, but they primarily do it on the first call because a lot of people, they see our stuff. They see a lot of the hope from all the people, the Marianes, the Marleys, the Sam Williams, the Elliots, the Harleys, the Jades, everyone. And all the people that's never made any content. It's not just them. There's hundreds, if not thousands outside of that have come over the years. And they go, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, think about someone who has severe POCD and incest-related fears, okay? Think about having a real event POCD, which many people do, okay? Many people hook up with their sisters or sexually touch their sisters and brothers, and they do stuff like that when you're a kid and you don't know what the hell's going on. And they do this, and then it becomes a latching theme. Then the only way for it to not become a latching theme anymore is unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional life acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement, and then breaking down the potential fears of rejection from other people, not understanding what you did. When you come in and you listen to someone like me or anyone who's had a real event POCD or they've gone through this themselves and they tell you that, you know, you can get better from this, that's literally like being on fire. Your whole body is burning to death. And I'm outside of you and I say, don't worry, there's going to be a point where there's no more pain. You're like, no, I'm burning to death. Like it feels horrible. And you could go down that, well, until your nerve your nerve ending's seared. No, I'm just using it as an analogy. But it's the same exact thing. And that's what people do. So they're so gung-ho about that. Like, there's no way, this isn't for me. That's how it feels. And it's going to feel like that for a long time. And then also, what it feels like inside of your head is when you actually make small changes to do things. Hey, bud. When you start making small changes to do things, there's some kisses. Hi, buddy. When you start making those changes, you're going to feel incredibly worse. Much, much, much worse. And that could be, here's another one, okay? Getting a little bit off topic, but it's all related to the same thing. You can cut one compulsion, and have physical anxiety, shame and guilt, DPDR symptoms, or whatever else, coronal responses, for months. Months and months and months and months for cutting one particular behavior. So it's not that it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. You're not going to cut a behavior And they'd be like, it's been a week. Why am I not better? Because that's where the fear comes in. So again, this is why we talk about so much becoming comfortable with suffering in of itself, not needing your suffering to go away, understanding that suffering isn't 100% inherently bad, making peace with that entire process. It sounds crazy to some people. It sounds crazy to all of us when we come in, but that's actually what's needed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I went actually a little bit longer of a walk. Usually I'm done by now. So, what are the takeaways from this? The takeaway is everyone thinks they're the exception. I thought I was the exception. Everyone has behaviors they could still work on. Everyone, more than likely, needs to put more effort into their belief systems. Everyone, more than likely, has to understand that OCD takes orders from beliefs and not thoughts. Everyone has to usually understand that the well-intentioned, meaning individuals many of them will steer you in the wrong direction. The amount of people that I have that come in that get reassurance on a daily basis in coaching sessions and therapy sessions and other places by well-intentioned, meaning individuals, because they've never had it. They don't understand how subtle reassurance. Again, when you're stuck in an OCD cycle and you're looking for any hit of relief from reassurance, any single hit, like the tiniest little hit of relief, you will manipulate the style of question in your favor to come from such a genuine response that it seems completely reasonable to answer. But I have such a keen eye for this that I go, yeah, we don't really need to talk about that, or I'm not going to give you that answer. And then the immediate anger or frustration. What do you mean? That's a genuine question. It's not, though. It's not. If you don't look at reassurance like a drug, you will never get better. You will be stuck with OCD for the remainder of your life. And it is super scary for people to hear that, but it is an absolute fact. And that's just the way it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Look for the WhatsApp link down below. Like I said, you go directly into booking. You can message Phil. We work with all time zones. Every time zone. I don't think there's a single time zone that I haven't worked with. And then we have people from all over the world that work with us. So we have different people that can fit time zones better, whether it's in New Zealand or Australia's or people around that in different areas of Asia. And just remember, the most important thing is you're going to feel completely, utterly isolated, completely, totally, completely alone. You're going to have to get really comfortable with people rejecting you and really comfortable with that internal clockwork just spinning at 1,000,000 miles an hour of rumination. You're going to have to become very comfortable with the disconnection feelings, feeling no connection, chasing a feeling, falling off a cliff, getting close to a feeling, jumping off, grabbing it, and then you realize there's no floor below you and you fall into nothing. These are in a trapdoor. I like the trapdoors, just trapdoor, 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 trapdoor. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you don't want to do the WhatsApp link, always the email phil@ocdrecovery.com. And remember, small steps. Even if you're not coming in to see us, start with the books. Get all the books read. Start chipping away at your behaviors. Make a list of some compulsions you want to take away. And then go from there. Have a good one, everyone.